Greetings LEGO fans! For this week's build, we have a play kit, and play I shall do with this cargo train set. Kit number 60198 at 1,226 pieces, which, in addition to coming with, of course, the train and the tracks, also has a crane so you load the cargo on and off the train. The locomotive is powered up, which is of course what you'd want in a toy train, and it even looks like it has some elements so you can reenact an armored car bank heist, which all sounds like a lot of fun and definitely how I'm planning on spending my Saturday afternoon. But first, of course, let's get this set unboxed, get it built, and then we can start having fun with this cargo train. So this is now my third LEGO train set, and the second one I have with power functions. First one being the holiday train, second one being the Disney train station, and this one, I gotta say, is my favorite thus far. It has more track, a switching track, the train has way more play features, so I find to be way more engaging, and I prefer the controller, both because I prefer tactile buttons, and it also has the ability to add an easy expansion module, which we'll get to a little bit later. Now, let's get a closer look at the components that make up the cargo train set, starting with the locomotive. The engine for this train is a green one, both literally and figuratively, as it's both painted green and runs on electricity, which you can tell by those two antenna looking things attached to the roof at either end of the car, which, if this were a real train, would be connected to some guide wires above feeding power into the engine. At either end, there's a booth for the conductor because, like most trains, this one can be driven both in forward and reverse, and right between them, buried right in the middle of the train, is the control module, which has the battery pack, Bluetooth controller, and a hookup for the motor. Up top, we've got the power button, and we have two little lids we can flip open, exposing the two conductor booths. Both of them looking exactly the same, so I'm only going to show you one here. Next up, we've got the car with the 12-ton cargo crane. The crane itself has three actuations, one control to raise and lower the hook, another one to raise and lower the arm, and you can pull on the end of the arm to extend the length of the arm. And then the entire crane, including the cab for the crane operator, can rotate in a full 360-degree rotation. And I'll demonstrate all these a little bit later. Additionally, it has two support struts that can be extended to either side to make the crane more stable. For, with them retracted, the crane's a little bit tipsy, so if you're lifting cargo heavy on one side or the other, the whole thing could potentially just tip over. So, extending these arms, lowering them down, makes it a whole lot more stable. And finally, on the other side, there's a little panel you can open up, exposing a panel with all kinds of gauges, switches, and other controls for the crane. And that brings us to the logging car. Not too much to see here, pretty simple, has 3 long logs on it, some chains attached so you can easily lift them out of the car, and some supports along either edge, preventing the logs from rolling off. For the final car, this one's pretty simple, just a flatbed with 2 cargo crates sitting atop, each having eyelets in the roof so the crane can easily attach and lift them off, with one of them being open on the sides, exposing a little snowmobile, and the other one, for the bank, being completely sealed away. The one with the snowmobile, being the simpler one, has 2 red walls, 2 open walls, a little pallet within that contains a snowmobile, which you can easily identify as being a member of the Arctic Explorer series. So this train was either heading to or coming from the Great North. The other one, being some sort of mobile bank vault, as clearly indicated by saying bank on 2 sides, is a very secure unit, having a digital keypad lock right in front, keeping the contents safe within, because once you open it up you reveal a pallet full of gold bars and stacks of cash. Definitely an attractive target for the burglar that comes with the set. But he's going to have to work for it, because the set additionally comes with an armored car. This one being mostly white with a little bit of green, kind of the mirror image paint job to the locomotive, also having some pretty large side view mirrors, and an extra large reinforced front bumper, probably pretty good for bashing through any blockades that any criminals might be setting up in its path, and having a license plate both in the front and the back reading PN 60198, which is a direct reference to the set number. In the back, the 2 big doors swing wide open, giving a kind of a limited access to the interior, but that's quite alright because over on the side, the entire panel opens up, giving very easy access, making it quite simple to load in and load out that pallet of cash and gold. And having a quick look at the driver's cab, we can see there's seating for 1, which I find to be a little bit surprising because this is definitely wide enough to have seating for 2. I guess this security guard likes to work alone. And the doors on either side do open up, which is quite pleasing. And for our final vehicle, we have a little forklift, which is very useful for loading those pallets in and out of those cargo crates, in addition to getting that golden cash in and out of the armored car. Next up, we've got a little rail crossing and a small tower. The rail crossing is pretty basic, just a little ramp so the cars can drive over the tracks, no line painted down the road, or barriers to lower to block the flow of traffic when the train is passing, just 2 little signs on each side indicating that this is a railroad crossing. Then we have the tower, which has a yellow base, ladder off to one side so the minifigures can climb up and get inside, where we find seating for 1 in front of 2 large windows that are sloped downwards for an easy view to the ground, 2 maps of the train tracks above that, 1 in each window, coffee pot off to our left, a little keyboard in front to the right, but no computer screen, not quite sure why, and a little control in the back, which you can rotate 180 degrees to make the light in the front flip from red to green. Finally, coming down to the tracks, this kit comes with 1 switching track, giving the option for the train to leave the loop if you so choose. And to control the train, we've got this simple little Bluetooth controller. In the center, a small green power button. On the left, we have the controls for the train. Pretty intuitive, plus makes it go faster, negative makes it go slower or put in reverse, and red makes it stop. On the right hand side, there's a matching control, but this one's not actually linked to anything, so it doesn't do anything. But the control module in the locomotive has a spot where you can attach a second motor. So if you want to expand on this and make it a little fancier somehow, you have some options. And then the controller has some customization options of its own, primarily in the controls on the left and right being able to rotate, so you can have them vertically, horizontally, or just rotate them around for the fun of it. And then the controller itself can be built into something. On the front we have a few studs, on the side we have some holes with some Technics pins, and on the back we have places where you can attach some studs again, allowing you to either build this controller into something a little more decorative, maybe something a little bit larger and nicer to hold in hands, or if you have other features, other controllers, you can link them together and make a bigger control unit. Finally, bringing all these elements together gives you a lot of options for the fun to be had. For example, here we have the train needing to unload some cargo and get it into the armored car. So the crane detaches its hook, swivels round, hooks onto the mobile bank vault, lifts it up into the air, swings it round, lowers it down on the ground, where you can open it up and then bring the forklift around so it can lift off the pallet and load it into the armored car. Hopefully without any interference from the shady character who's clearly looking to heist all this loot. And of course, for the main feature, we get to drive this train. There are several speeds it can travel at. Hitting the plus brings it up to speed number 1, where you can see it just barely crawls along, getting through the curves, a little more friction, so it struggles a little bit, but it does get a little momentum when it gets into the straightaways. But of course, this speed's not very entertaining, so we hit the plus, make it go faster, gets a little more entertaining, gets a little exciting, keep speeding it up, and eventually hit that speed where it actually can't make the turns and it derails, which in itself is fun on its own, so I really don't mind when that happens. And then we come to our minifigs, which is set comes with 6 fairly generic characters, but are fun to add to the scene for sure. Starting from the top left, we've got our crane operator, our conductor, the woman who sits in the control tower, the guy who drives the armored car, our suspected thief, and our forklift operator. I think it goes without saying that this set was made to be played with. The train is very interactive, the control is very easy, have it race around the track, derail, whatever you want to do, it's great. And then we have all this cargo to interact with, getting on and off the train with the crane, getting in and out of its pallets with the forklift, the armored car, preventing a bank theft. There's certainly a lot of fun that an active imagination can have here. As to display, I think this kit is lacking a little bit, but I don't think this was ever meant to be displayed on its own. This is a train track. There's supposed to be a city around it. There's supposed to be things you add to it. So there's a lot you can do here to make it entertaining for a long time. Keep expanding it, modifying it, as you play with it and display it. This has so much potential to grow, get larger, more interesting. And when I mean larger, this, as you can see, takes a lot of space. So you need to keep that in mind because this is not going to fit on your card table. So if you are building a city and have space to display a large track like this, there's a lot of potential here. And of course, being Lego, you can mod this and have this train be however you want it to be. But I also really appreciate how this battery pack has an extra connector on it. So I'm not sure what extra motor I could put here, but it could be interesting. Might be entertaining. Maybe it's crazy. Who knows? It'll be fun. As the components in this kit, the stuff that stands out to the most to me is, of course, the train stuff, which I think goes without saying. We have the motor for the locomotive, the control box, the controller, and all these train tracks. The rest is pretty generic, but I'm not complaining, because there's already a lot of great stuff in here, and you can tell I'm already having a lot of fun. And if you get this kit, I'm sure you will too.
Bye.